Hello, I'm Rick Stivers. I'd like to welcome you to YoungMartin'sReels. Today's project is going to be this Garcia 9200, and I don't know how long it's going to take me to get this reel out to you, or this video out to you. This reel is going to require a fair amount of work. I did manage to get the anti-reverse on it working again. When I first got it, it didn't work at all, and it now does work. But there's a lot of play in this and a lot of noise. So I think it's going to need bearings, so I think I'm going to have to work on seeing about getting some bearings. I've got the anti-reverse working again. The biggest problem that I've got is going to be this drag knob. And if you look at the bottom of this drag knob, you will see that it's broken away. Let's see if we can get a close-up of that. Okay. And I did a little bit of checking, and so far I haven't been able to find one anywhere, so I think that I'm going to see if I can do a repair on this, and we'll cover that. I might do that as a separate video, but it might all be contained in the same video. But anyway, for now, let's go ahead, let's get started on this. We've taken the drag knob off. Let's go ahead and remove the spool, and obviously this is very dirty inside. It has seen better days. The spring, not sure what's going on there. This goes one way and stays, and goes the other way and stays. So we'll clean that up and see just exactly what's going on with that clicker spring. I think it needs a little help. Okay, let's come on back over here, and let's remove this cap off of this side and see if this is a through. Yes, it is a through handle. So let's go ahead and remove the screw, slide the handle out. All right, at that point, we're ready to remove this side plate. I'm going to break each of the screws loose with a common screwdriver, and then unscrew them using my Phillips. All right, all three of the screws appear to be the same, so we'll put them together over here. Okay, the main gear came out with the side plate and lots of other stuff. Okay, we've got another assembly here that came off inside that looks like it was on this as well. Flip that over. That goes into there. Okay, there we go. There's a hole in this assembly right here, and that spring, I don't know if you can see it. Let's see if we can get you zoomed in on it a little bit. Okay, this piece slid off. See that spring right there? Well, there's a hole right there, and that spring, that's your anti-reverse, is going to fit into that. Okay, and it turns easily this way, but it meets a lot of resistance this way. It tightens that spring when you try to reverse it the opposite direction, or it tightens it down on the cam or on the shaft. Okay, let's go ahead and see if this main gear will slide out. It does. All right, we've got a bushing on this side that appears to be stuck. All right, so we'll have to see if we can get that bushing removed off of there. We've got this assembly on the side that's going to go here. This is our crosswind arm. Okay, that will fit right here. And normally there is a shim on any of them that I've seen that are like this, but this one doesn't have one. Okay, so we're going to set that over to the side, and I'm going to take a moment to see if I can pull this bushing off. All right, so far it has no intention of coming off. Okay, so in the meantime, let's go ahead and pull this piece off. All right, and let's go ahead, if we can, and remove the spring as well. Okay, set those over to the side. That's all for the anti-reverse. And man, that is some sticky grease that's in there. And so far I see no shims, and I'm going to have to work on getting that off. And if possible, if I've got one, I want to replace this bushing with a bearing. This bushing right here, I want to try to replace that with a bearing. But there's a lot of old grease in here. All right, let's see where we stand at this point. Okay, side case is off. Set that over to this side. Let's see what it's going to take. Okay, this pin right here comes out of this crosswind block. And when that's out, this crosswind block should slide off the end of the axle shaft, and it does. And notice which way it goes in. It goes in with this shoulder facing forward towards the rotor. All right, we're now going to take out the axle shaft. And that's pretty dirty, but overall it looks pretty good. All right, now the anti-reverse, even without that inner piece, is still functional. See there? And the only thing I did the other day when I popped this open is I put a little lubricant on this. This was stuck right there. And all I did was sprayed a little WD-40 on it, wiggled a little bit. And that part's working fine. And so the anti-reverse is working. And this other part must be a backup to the anti-reverse. So, all right. Let's go ahead now and see about removing this nut. Okay, apparently I didn't even need the socket because it was already loose. Okay, there's the nut. There's a washer. And let's remove the rotor. Okay. Flip that over, and the trip mechanism should go. So these are not real easy to flip by hand. Let's back this back up. Okay, it trips, but look at that. It does not hardly trip. So we've got some work to do on that bail. All right, let's see what we have here. We have our ramp assembly. Okay, and we've got 2 screws and then the bearing inside. So let's see about removing these 2 screws for the bearing retainer / ramp. Okay. There we go. And I do not have one of these bearings. I don't believe, but boy, it sure is crusty. That's where all the noise is coming from. Although it spins reasonably decent, it's a lot of dirt and grit in there. Okay, we've got a collar here that goes behind the bearing and the anti-reverse cog. All right, let's go ahead and push out that bushing. Okay, and because there was stuff up under here, I'm probably going to take that loose. Although I think I can probably clean it right where it's at. So I think that's what we're going to do. All right. I'm going to go off and see if I can get this bushing off of this main gear so we can get that popped loose. And if I can, we'll be back with you in just a minute. Okay, everything's cleaned up now, ready to go back together. And I did manage to get this bushing off right here. And I sanded this down and cleaned it up. And now it fits nice. There was a shim under that bushing right here. Okay, and We're going to be putting that back in. So all the parts have been cleaned. I've greased several of them, and the reason I did is because I already put this reel back together once. However, I did something wrong, and so I took it all back apart. Now we're going to put it back together the right way. All right, so I was unable to locate in my stash a set of bearings to replace these bushings. However, if you are looking to order you some for this reel, this is a 9mm by 13mm by 4mm bushing. That's what you would want to order. I did have the bushing to replace this eat-up bushing bearing that was in it, and this is a sealed bearing, and it is a 9 by 17 by 4mm. And let's get back together. Let's get this thing back together. Okay. All right. The parts have been cleaned. All this has been reassembled once before. It was assembled incorrectly because I wasn't paying attention. So I took it all back apart. We're going to do it again. I have already inserted this bushing down in here and cleaned it up and lubricated it. And let's go ahead and start off with this pinion gear. And we're going to go ahead and put this tooth on. This is our anti-reverse cog. On top of that goes this bushing. On top of that is going to go our newly replaced sealed bearing. And I happen to have one from a previous job that I did, or ordered 10 of them. Okay, let's move that out of the way. Move that down, and let's get this to slide into place. Let's get that gear out of the way. There we go. Slide it in, and there's our anti-reverse. Okay. Let's go ahead and install the bearing retainer. It goes on. It's got a keyway over here, and it's got a post over here that it has to fit onto. And now we're going to take these two screws and reinstall them. I put a little bit of grease on the end of my screwdriver just to make it easier to hold the screws in place. Old mechanic strip from way back. There we go. All right, I have found that if I try to install the axle shaft first, this gear doesn't want to fit in. So you can take the gear out with the axle shaft installed, but it doesn't like to go in with it installed. So we're going to take this now, and we're going to reinstall this spring. This spring, see, it's got this bend out tab here. Let's go ahead and zoom in for this. Okay, it's got this bent out tab right here. Well, that's got to go facing out away from the gear. Slide that down onto the gear like so. And then we're going to put this shoulder on, and this goes on with this shouldered boss pointing out away from the gear. And if you look, you'll see this, there's a hole right there that spring has got to go into. There it goes, and just like that. With that done, let's go ahead and grease this gear. And while we're here, let's go ahead and grease the pinion gear. And we're going to install this. If you look, you've got this standout shoulder over here. And over on the other side, it's cut away. Well, the cutaway side is the side that's going to go against the axle shaft. So then we're going to set this back in here, like so. There we go. And drops down. Okay, we're going to stop at this point, and we're going to move over to the bail, because the bail, the rotor has got to be finished and reinstalled prior to putting the axle shaft in. So what we're going to do is see what we can do from here. This bail does not want to trip at all, and I'm sure part of it is because it's dirty. Part of it may be that it's bent. Sometimes that will cause it. Other times, maybe not. I've loosened it a little bit. Okay, well, that's not too bad now. But you can't leave the screws loose because they'll just fall out. Okay, so that means that we've got some resistance going on right here. So let's go ahead and take this apart. Okay, and now the bail's fitting properly here. Well, almost properly. If you look, I don't know if you can see in there, but this is not quite straight. It's got an angle to it, and that can be enough to cause it to be off. So we're going to have to reshape that bail just slightly. But part of it is dirt. Look at this thing. Let's go ahead and take this apart on this side. Okay. And this part here is pretty corroded. So we'll clean it up, see if we can get it moving more freely. This part wants to move freely, although it's a little gummy feeling. Let's spray a little WD-40 on it. Try to break any old grease up. Oh, now it's gone from being gummy feeling to perky. All right, now WD-40 is not a good lubricant. It's a good cleaner and rust dissolver, but long-term lubrication, it doesn't do too well. So I use the WD-40 to clean it up, and I add some real oil, and that's got that part working fine. Okay, I'm gonna spray a little bit more WD-40 into here, and let's see if we can clean this out. All right, next thing we're gonna do is remove the wire from the bail arm. And let's see if we can't get this side cleaned up. Okay, we're gonna spray some WD-40 down in there and scrub that with some 4/0 steel wool and see if we can't improve the looks of that a little bit. The only way that can fit, unless it goes on the opposite side of this arm. And it sure doesn't look like it belongs on the opposite side of this arm. Yeah, it does. Okay. I can tell this is going to require a lot of editing. Okay, it appears to be the way it belongs. And that will be held down by the plate being on there. Okay, let's reinstall the plate so that can't pop out like it was doing. Yep, that is correct on that side then. But we're still kind of flimsy on the spring action. So let's back up to this side. Let's go ahead and take this arm back off, because this does need to be cleaned and lubricated inside. There's the washer. Where did the nut go? Here it is. Okay. Take that out. Now we're going to disassemble this side. Hopefully we'll have better luck with it than we did on the other side. Let's start off by taking the plate off the side. Okay, it's got that style of spring. And it looks to be in good shape. So, all we're gonna do is take this apart real quick and clean it, because dirt is not your friend. Okay, let's see about putting it back. Spring goes in here. Okay, the other end of it's going to go up here. And it was running dry, so maybe running dry was a problem for it. So let's add a little grease so that it doesn't have that resistance anyway. Okay. Put it down in the hole. Okay, let's set the plate back in place, like so. And I believe that having the plate in will hold the spring in place. Now this screw is really dirty also, so let's scrub it up real quick. All right, that's got the screw cleaned out. So let's set this plate back in place. This arm's got to go in here, like so. That's got to go over there, like so. And the whole thing should screw back in with this here screw. Oh, we've gone from a not very snappy bail to a very snappy bail now. Okay. Now this roller is not rolling, so let's clean it up. Now, let's see if the roller will roll. Oh yeah. It's a little stiff, but it works. There we go. All right, now we've got this cup on this end, and this thing's pretty corroded looking too. So let me clean it up. And the cup fits on the end like so. And hopefully now then the roller will roll. And it looks like it's going to do fine. All right. And this seems to fit pretty daggone well. Okay, so let's try tightening it down. Like so. And it's still got a little tension from when we tightened it. Now let's try to loosen it just a hair. All right, we're going to add a little oil along this line. Add a little oil under the head of the screw. Add some oil over here and add some more oil over here under the head of this screw. Let's exercise it a little bit. tighten this back down. Still not overly happy with it, but it's a lot better than it was. It looks as though this end cap here is bent in like this a little bit. So I'm going to try to see what I can do about that. We're going to go ahead and take this back off on this side. Yeah. And see. Because folks, close isn't always good enough. Sometimes it is, but sometimes it isn't. Okay. So what we're going to do, we're going to bend this slightly in so it's a little bit tight, but then right here, we're going to try to bend it back out again, going the opposite direction. Right here. Okay. Let's see how that fits. Okay, I think we got a better fit now. Now it fits flat, although it's pushed down. See how it's slightly pushed down out of line? So we can maybe bend it up just a little bit. That part is just adjustable right there. Okay. The rest of this is, okay, that's good. Well, that's snappy, but let's see what happens when we tighten it down here. That is adding just a littlest bit of tension, but let's see, when we tighten it this way, there we go. That took a while. Okay. Now we've got a snappy bail. And some folks out there don't care about a snappy bail because they close them manually anyway. But others really care a lot. Like me, I want them to have a very snappy bail. All right, so we've put the rotor back on, and now we're going to put this nut back on. First the washer, like so. And then on goes the nut. See, I got it upside down. All right, let's tighten down the nut. That's good. Oh, that's very quiet. Put the anti-reverse back on, it gets a little noisy. All right. At this point, we're ready to now slide the axle in. The axle's already been oiled, so we'll go ahead and just slide it in. And we're going to match that up with the crosswind block here in the back. Which is sometimes easier said than done. There we go. Slide it in, and we're going to slide the pin in. Get the pin to line up on the hole in the axle shaft. There's the hole right there. pin should line up in it. It's going to be aggravating, isn't it? Okay, line the hole up, pull it forward. There we go. And insert the pin. There we go. All the way down. Once we've done that, take your crosswind arm. It's already been lubricated. Slip it on and move the axle shaft forward until, or aft, whichever way you need to get it to line up with the crosswind arm. And there you go. We are aligned. And this crosswind arm actually seems to have a right way and a wrong way. And I was putting it on the wrong way. It was slightly beveled. So that was making it stick up. Okay, there we go. Now it should be on there the right way. I thought they were the same either way. Apparently that's not the case. Okay, next is going to go this little shim. It's about a 5.5 millimeter shim that goes on. Okay, now put the last bushing inside the side case over here. Put some grease on all of the available parts, including the bushing. And then let's slide on the side case. Like so. Let's get the screws started. And what I have found on this reel is that if you tighten the screws all the way down, sometimes it'll cause it to bind and not rotate. So don't tighten them all the way down until you get it mostly together. Okay, once you get it to here, go ahead and rotate it. Slip the handle on for a second. Spin it, make sure it spins okay, and it does. Okay, now tighten the screws down the rest of the way. All right, handle goes in. There we go. Let's put the screw in from the other side to tighten the handle down and hold it in place. Now, if this were my reel, I believe that I would be doing a full restoration on it. I think I would be stripping all the paint off and sanding it down and repainting it, because it is a really nice reel. But it's not my reel. So all I'm going to do is get it up and serviceable. Remember all that grinding it was doing before? That's nice. All right. Next, we're on to the spool. Okay, let's take, first off, before we take anything else apart, let's clean this up, scrub this out at the bottom, and see what's going on with that spring, why it seems so flaky. Okay, well, that seems to be okay. There is a spring there. And it is holding. It's holding that in place. It's fine. It's doing what it's supposed to do. Let me do a little scrub up in here, just to make it prettier. Okay, let's put that on and see what kind of sound we get out of that clicker. Oh yeah, it's plenty loud enough. All right, so let's take a look at the drag washers then. They're gonna pop out. The retainer clip, there it is. And let's see about taking out the drag washers. Okay, now yes, that is filthy dirty inside there, but everything seems to be in good shape. So let's spray and clean it up a little bit. Okay. All right, so the way they set this up, they've got a phenolic drag washer in the bottom. Then there's an eared washer, and it has to go in so those ears line up like so. And there's a lot of sand here. I'm trying to make sure all the sand is off. There's a Teflon drag washer, and then a keyed drag washer, and another Teflon drag washer, and another eared drag washer, and then another Teflon drag washer, followed up by this dimpled. And on this dimple, there's supposed to be dimples on here. Well, even if I rebuild this, there's not going to be dimples there anymore. So we're going to put this together as is, and it's not going to be tightened down with little detents anymore. Okay, I'm going to set the spring in place. We're going to set it where one end of it is close to one of the holes, not on the hole, but close to one of the holes. Okay, and you just snap that back in all the way down. Okay, and pop it back up, make sure it's in the groove like so. All right, and now that goes on. There we go. There we go. Snappy bail response. Anti-reverse works. Anti-reverse override works. There's the override. Clicker works. Bail flips. All right. Now we're going to go on to fixing this, but I think that's going to be a separate video. So for now, let's go ahead and put this on. Tighten down the drag a little bit. And it's working. It's working as a drag right now. It just isn't working to the greatest that it possibly could by any means. I'm going to do a separate video for the Garcia 9200. So for now, pin or drag knob Rick Stivers repair. I can't find one. This thing has been a bit of a pain. So I'm going to attempt to repair this one. And for now, hopefully I can do that. That's it for the Garcia 9200. It's sweet. It rides real nice now. It is a little out of balance, but I think you could probably work a little balance miracle on there. But my goodness, what a nice reel. For this video, we're going to attempt to repair this drag knob for this Garcia 9200 that I just recently serviced. And the drag knob is busted, and there's no parts available for this. I've done a little research and couldn't find any anyway. And what we're going to do is we are going to attempt to take the center out of this, and then we're going to set it up with a nut driver inside to take the place of where the spring is, but the nut driver is going to have a mold release or grease on it to keep it from sticking. And then we're going to build this up with JB Weld and replace this facing that used to be on here with a washer. Now, part of this I'm going to take down and put on my belt sander and sand the top edge of this down and try to get this as level as possible when we go to do this. So first thing I'm going to do though is try to get this center out. So let's try to do that. We're going to set this. What we want is for this to be able to fit down inside there. And so we're going to set that up. And I have a nut driver that just does fit down inside here like so. And I've got a small ball peen hammer. Let's see if we can get this set up where you can see it, what I'm doing. I doubt it. And now you just really can't hardly see it. There we go. And we're just going to tap down. Okay, that knocked the center out. What do we have here? We have a nut. It fits down inside there, and it's going to fit into this spring. And what we want to do is replace that nut down inside there with a nut driver. Now, what we got to really make sure to do is not get any, I don't know if you can see, but there's a hex setup down in there for that hex head to sit into. And we got to make sure that we don't get any glue on that. So what we're going to try to do is find a nut driver that just will fit inside. There we go, like so. Okay, and as we glue this, maybe I can get one a little tighter. Oh yeah, that's a much better fit. That's tighter. That doesn't wobble or anything. Okay, so what I can do now is I can take and grind this top layer off and get it perfectly flat, and then we can JB weld, and that's just about the right thickness. Sorry, this is just about the right thickness for this washer to replace, and we're going to JB weld this washer onto there. And whether it'll hold or not, I don't know. We're going to have to wait and see. But in the meantime, I'm going to run out to my belt sander and try to sand this down smooth, and I will be right back. Okay, we got it sanded down even, or as even as possible with this breakout over here. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to scrub it up with acetone and get it as clean as possible, especially down in this cracked area. This up here should be pretty clean because it just got ground down to that. So that should be reasonably clean. And I'm going to try to clean it up with acetone and see if we can JB weld this thing together. Okay, it's getting it so clean to the point that it's actually melting the plastic. So that plastic is not acetone safe, so that's good. That means we actually melted it down. It should be pretty daggone clean. I'm going to come back now with some alcohol on the other side and do it again. I'm going to accomplish the same thing with the nut, or with the washer, and make sure that it's just as clean as the plastic. All right, at this point now, what we're going to do is we're going to put a very light coating of grease onto this nut driver. So that the JB weld won't stick to it. And then we're going to insert it up inside and get it to go right until it's flush. And we're going to stop right there. Okay, so what we want to do now is we're going to take our JB weld and we're going to create a ring around this, like so. And then we're going to set our washer onto it. And now there's a little bit over here where it was broken away. We're going to put some JB weld over there. And it's okay to have a little bit too much because I can always come back and sand it down. Okay. Let's get that centered as well as we can. Like so. And if we've got it on there correctly, then we should be okay. And hopefully that can cure up. And when it's done, it's going to operate as though it was new. Now I'm still going to have to clean out the inside of that. I'm going to let this cure for about 6 hours. And then I'm going to come back and pop the nut driver out of it. And then I'm going to trim that center excess out. Pop it loose and get it out of there. And then after it's cured for a full 24 hours, I'll come back and sand it smooth around the outside edges. Now, is there probably anybody in the country that you can send this to pay to have this done? No, because the reel really isn't worth this. This is just something I wanted to do to get it up and running again. Is the reel worth this kind of effort? Pretty much no. But I don't like to see things sit when they could be outgoing again. So that's my excuse for this. That's why I'm doing it. And I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to get this to stand up. That wasn't part of my plan. I didn't count on, if it sits to the side just slightly, that washer starts to slide on the JB weld. So it's going to have to stay perfectly straight up and down. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to take it downstairs and clamp it in my vise so that it will hold perfectly straight until it's cured. I think that's going to be my answer. So next time you see me, hopefully this will be, we'll be ready to at least pop this out for the medium part and keep going. All right, I've had this curing for a while down here in the garage, and it's only about 5 hours old, and so the JB weld is still somewhat soft, but it's no longer tacky. So what I want to do is I'm going to take this and see if I can get that nut driver out of there before it cures up all the way, and I can still clean up the excess JB weld that's on the inside before it gets too hard. So here we go, and take it up. All right, the glue is no longer tacky, but it is still flexible and still bendable, and that's why I've chosen now to go ahead and try to remove this nut driver from out of here that I had greased to see if I can get it out before, oh, there it comes. All right, let's see if we can see down inside there. Okay, I've got excess glue down inside there, and I've got to try to get that out. And let's turn on some extra light in here. All right. So the glue is down inside there, and it is on the washer. The washer has been effectively glued to this. I'm going to see if I can get by with just taking a screwdriver, sitting this down in here, and just popping that glue loose on the inside while it's still soft. Okay, there's one part of it. I'll keep working at it. Let's come around back to the other side. There. Okay, it's got all the excess glue out of the inside now. So the spring should fit in there like so, and it does. Get that excess glue out. Okay, the spring should fit, and the hex nut should fit, which I hope it does. Yep, there it goes. Down inside, that's good. Okay, and it's up against the spring. The spring's up against that. All right, so what I'm gonna go for is tomorrow, once this is cured well, and this is rock hard solid, like JB Weld will do, I will smooth it, sand it, and have it hopefully ready to screw on. I don't think it's going to be a problem going down in there. Tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to pop this drag washer setup back out. Because what I want this to be able to do is to be able to lay flat down inside there, and it can. And that's what I was after. I wanted to make sure that it was going to be able to do that. Okay? And it's going to be able to lay completely flat inside there, even with the excess glue that's still on here, although I'm going to clean that up a little bit. Even with that excess on there, it's still able to fit down in there. So this is going to be good. I believe that we're going to have an effective repair here. But we won't know for about another 18 hours how well this is going to work. So for now, I'm going to stop, and I will get back to you tomorrow in about 18 hours when this is fully cured and hard, and then I can sand all this smooth, reinstall the spring and the plug, all this back in there, and reinstall that plug, and I think we're going to have an operational reel again. We'll see what happens. Well, it's been 24 hours now since I put this into cure, and yeah, the JB Weld seems plenty hard. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take a file and clean this up around it a little bit. And is that really necessary? No, probably not. I think that this would still work just fine without being cleaned up, but there's a part of me that just, I can't hardly abide by things looking messy. And I do need to clean off the face of the washer, which is what I'm doing right now. Okay, I believe it's going to work just fine. Let's find out. We're going to start off by setting the button onto this socket right here like that. That'll support this and make sure that there's no stress going onto the socket itself. Then we're going to install the spring, and if you look down inside there, it's all nice and level in there for the spring to go in, like so. And then we're going to put the nut in, and the nut has got to fit into the hex design that's built into that, like so. All right. And now that all still fits just below this lip right here. And that, I'm hoping, is going to be enough to prevent this from driving that spring down against that washer and popping it off as we tap this down. Okay, so let's see what happens. Okay, so far no breaks. I want to tap just a hair more on this side over here. There. Now it's even all the way in, but it's still looking a little crusty there. So let's see if I can clean that up just a little bit. All right, there's our drag knob. Hopefully repaired. We're going to see in just a few minutes if it works. Okay. All right, now we're ready to build our drag washer stack back up. We're going to start off with the phenolic block. We're going to follow that up by the eared washer. And then we're going to follow with another Teflon washer. And then we're going to stick in this keyed washer. Follow that up by another Teflon washer. Followed up by an eared washer. Followed up by a Teflon washer. And the final on that is going to be this keyed washer, the large one. Okay, and then we're going to slide that in. That's going to lock that in place. Okay, we've already oiled this, but I'm going to do it one more time. Okay, slip that on. And let's see how our new drag knob works. Oh yeah, that works nicely. All right, so now we have a Mitchell 9200 that is perfectly functional again. Everything's repaired. It's not the prettiest reel in the world, but it is a nice reel. And it's ready to go out and go fishing again. That's going to go back to Ken. Ken's going to use it as one of his boat reels, I think. Although I think it might be a bit big for a boat reel. But for now, that's Rick Stivers of the Young Martin's Reels, signing out.